good evening once again, and thank you for braving the weather and coming out. But we are in for a very interesting evening, I think, from Victoria and Ben Garcia from Brighton and Hove buses. We're going to talk, as you'll see here, about accessible and inclusive travel for all. So would you please, as I know we're restricted on numbers for the weather we've had, but please give them the biggest welcome ever to Victoria.
Brian, and thank you as well, Sandy. Can we just begin by saying our deepest condolences to everyone, and thank you so much for inviting us this evening. It's a real honour to be with you all, and it's such a beautiful room. And Ben's going to make a start, but just very briefly, I'm Victoria Garcia. I'm the Accessibility and Communities Manager for Brighton Hove buses and Metrobus, and that's the capacity I'm in this evening about inclusive and accessible travel. But my other hat is that I'm, for the UK, I'm the Disability and Access Ambassador for the Cabinet Office for Bus and Coach. So that's my other hat, and it's one of 20 voluntary roles that reports to Sir Stephen Timms, the Minister. And I'm just going to pass you over to our Business Development Manager, Ben Garcia.
Hi all, so I'm just going to give a brief introduction about who we are and what we do, and then pass over about our actual accessibility and what we're doing in inclusive transport. To give a bit of a background, we have a commercially run network covering the South East, not just Sussex, Surrey and Kent. And what that means is that we're basically funded by tickets on the bus. So whilst we do have bus service improvement plans and funds on some of our areas, we're mostly funded commercially. Whereas you look at somewhere like London, it's funded by the taxpayer, but we're funded by tickets on the bus. We have a fleet of over 400 buses with 1,800 colleagues. And an interesting fact about us is we have the highest bus passengers per head in the UK outside of London. We have, in the past 2 years, we've invested lots in new buses, and we now have the largest hydrogen fleet in the UK, which is based in our Crawley depot in Brandon and Metrobus. So based, of course, for our Brighton Hove network, that also covers Eastbourne, we have a 24-hour control team that monitors buses on our coasters, our regencies, and we've invested in the first accessibility-led role in the UK in bus. We have a dedicated safeguarding team at a director level. So what that means is, for safeguarding, is any time there's a safeguarding issue that comes through, we have a dedicated team that obviously looks into all those different these issues and how we can resolve it. We continue to have in-person travel centres, actually called community hubs now, and we've got community hubs. Sorry, there. It's basically, you'll see one on North Street. Oh, sorry, apologise. We have it on North Street in Brighton. We have it in Crawley Travel Shop on a Metrobus. We have Red Hill Travel Shop. We have Hove in Brighton Hove on there, and we also having someone at Brighton Station as well. Our customer services, so we have local. They're open until 10 PM, 7 days a week. So where you have Stagecoach, you have your main bus operator here. If you call them, you're calling someone in Scotland. If you're calling someone, and they're open to 8 PM, if you're calling someone for Brighton Hove buses, you're calling to someone in Brighton. Open until 10 PM, 7 days a week. So we're really, if you're looking to say I'm catching the bus from Cornfield Road, they're going to know where that is because they were locally based. We continue to accept cash on our buses and key cards, bank cards. Now we have loads of different ways of paying. We've actually just had Google Insights card as well, which is Google Payments, which we're about to be announcing soon, which is very exciting. We continue to have printed timetables and maps. Now we think this is really important. So printed information, you also go into one of our travel shops, community hubs, you'll see that we have printed information anywhere. You get to some of the hotels, you'll see it, because we think not everyone, not only firstly has access to a phone, but also not everyone likes to actually go on their phone to get all the information. I like printed timetables. I think they're very useful, and maps are the most important thing to make sure you know how the bus operation works. Interesting fact about us, you can actually translate our website into over 100 languages, which is really important as well, because you all know about how we have, when you go into Beachy Head, Burning Gap, Seven Sisters, that you have a large international market, which most of them actually carry, particularly from Korea and now China as well. So they can translate the website and live bus information to any languages. You may have already noticed if you go on our buses, we also have printed leaflets in Korean as well, which will help as well, which will help up the speeding for the boarding process for people in Korea going to Seven Sisters and Burning Gap. And we are Department for Transport Inclusive Leaders. So what that means is that we're the most accessible bus operator in the UK with the highest accreditation from the Department for Transport. And I think also in line with Hove Travel, isn't it? Also, they're very, very, very good. So again, a bit more about us. You'll see, if you can see this, by the way, we have our different branded buses here. So you'll see our normal Brighton Hove ones you may see. We have our Metrobus ones, which is a hydrogen fleet. We have our Spirit of Sussex coaches as well, so you may see Spirit of Sussex going around. We have over 40 coaches there. Regency, Coaster buses as well, so obviously Coaster, Regency. So for us at Eastbourne, we do the Coaster bus, we do the Regency, the 54 and Eastbourne Sightseeing. There's 100 of our buses of both brands have talking buses, dementia-friendly flooring, separate buggy and wheelchair bay, free Wi-Fi and charging points. 99% of our buses of both brands have manual ramps, and we're converting the last remaining at present, which is great. 88 of our buses at Brighton, Hove and Metrobus at 31 have 2 wheelchair bays, dementia-friendly seating and improved accessible signage front and contrast as well, which we'll touch a bit more on in later. We have 16 new electric buses arriving in the next 2 months. That's going to be in Brighton, so obviously it won't be in Eastbourne specifically. And that's going to be just electrifying our depot at the moment in Conway Street. So it is a demolition site, as you can imagine, where all the electric cables are being brought in. So actually, just on Eastbourne Sightseeing, this is our brand new brand hitting Eastbourne from the 28th of February. So we've rebranded Eastbourne Sightseeing. As you may know, we purchased it 2 years ago. We've taken over from Seven Sisters Bus and Coach, and we've been investing more in Eastbourne Sightseeing. So we've just rebranded. So you'll be seeing in the next couple of weeks, they'll be on the streets and on going up to Burning Gap, Seven Sisters, bringing people to Eastbourne as well. On a brand new brand, which we're very excited for. So we've launched on the 28th of February again. And then that's going to be running weekends only, and on the 28th of March is when it's going to be running every day, and it's going to be going up for most of the year. So very excited to having our new buses on the road, so you'll see them soon. So Eastbourne Sightseeing bus names, you may not know this, but at Brighton Hove, we name our buses after notable deceased people with a connection to the area. So as you imagine, because predominantly in Brighton Hove, it's mostly Brighton Hove, and we've been doing this since 1999. You've probably seen it on you've probably seen it on some TV channels because they've been picking up on networks across the country. We've been doing it for so many years now. Of course, everyone wants to be on the front of a bus. So we've actually named some people connected to Eastbourne on a new Eastbourne Sightseeing buses coming. So you have Lewis Carroll, George Orwell, Alice Hudmond, Raymond Francis, and Sir Lindsay Bryson. And really interesting, if you want to learn a bit more, so they're going on tomorrow, but you won't see them, of course, because the buses don't start until the 28th of February. You can actually go on buses.co.uk, bus names, and it'll give you a whole bio about anyone who's named on the front of a bus, past and present. And it'll give you information who we are. So you'll see them later about the ones named in Eastbourne as well, so it gives you a lot of fact. For example, one of our bus names here is Stephen Barnwell, which was a veteran, if I remember. Yeah. He was one of the first people on the beaches. Yeah, brilliant. So so we used it at the commemorations as well, which is brilliant. So Christmas and New Year services. So you may have seen in Eastbourne that we ran the 12 to Eastbourne this year. So we've actually started running bus services on Christmas Day. So they were introduced commercially in 2021, and we had approximately 7,000 customers, and we carried a 15% increase from last year, which is very exciting. You'll see here with little Santa waving, there's our Christmas timetable to Eastbourne. And then on Boxing Day we had the 12, we had the 13 and we had the 28. So we believe that to run a bus network you need to have a comprehensive timetable, because you want people to leave the car at home or be able to then rely on the bus. You need to be able to get around. You can't just let people who have a car get around on Christmas Day, is a thing I believe. So yeah, doing greeting every year, just being really excited about that. And also another positive, the last thing I'll add is that if anyone loves model buses, you can now get brand new, came out 2 weeks ago, you can buy a model bus if you like. An award-winning livery of the Coaster, we just see in Eastbourne, it has Eastbourne on the front as well. But yeah, no, so it's just something we just designed and got to stake up in our gift shop in Brighton, in our travel hub, and online. I'll pass over.
Thank you, Ben, that's fantastic. I'm just going to go back. Which way is it? Yes, that's it. Yeah, so I'm just going to go back to the slide that Ben was referring to about the different things that we're doing across the company. And the reason why I've come back to this slide is because Ben quite rightly raised about the fact of the 24-hour control team, and also that we've got the safeguarding team and the customer services. My role is I'm Victoria Garcia, as I said at the beginning, the Accessibility and Communities Manager, and to be able to use the bus, we need to ensure that the barriers are taken away for people to access the bus. And to take away those barriers, you need to make sure that people know about the bus, as Ben was referring to the timetables as well. So by increasing our timings on customer services from 6 a.m. in the morning to 10 p.m. at night, that means that more people can access that. And with the safeguarding team, that's a dedicated team that is run by the operations director. I sit on that team, and if we get any feedback, whether that's a positive feedback or a complaint that comes in that involves somebody of a protected characteristic or around a child, or there's been some sort of criminal interaction, that would be fast-tracked through. So every feedback goes through a normal process that will immediately be, the bus will be traced, the driver will be traced, the CCTV will be downloaded. That will actually go through to what we call our operation manager. Each of our depots has an operation manager, and whatever that feedback is, there'll be a full comprehensive investigation into that. If it's a safeguarding issue, the reason why it's fast-tracked is because, of course, a safeguarding issue would then involve Sussex Police as well, and we need to make sure that we interrogate that information very quickly, and that the police, if it is going through and the police are taking up as an investigation, that they have that. And it's about giving the reassurances to the person that's given that feedback that quite rightly action's been taken. But I'm just going to draw your attention to the final one, which was about the DFT, Inclusive Transport Leaders. So back in 2018, the government brought out what they called the Inclusive Transport Strategy, which was looking at how they could make it more accessible for disabled and non-disabled people to access the bus. And they put forward lots of different guidance, and they asked operators to ensure that they were more accessible. And as Ben was saying, that sadly in many ways we're the only bus operator in the whole UK that's been awarded the highest accreditation, and Hove Travel actually have that as well. And I'm also, before I move forward, I think it might be worth giving a little bit of a background to my role. My role started in 2013. I joined Brighton Hove Buses in 2010 following a traumatic brain injury. Before that, I used to drive. I used to access services in many different ways and drive and actually go about my business, even going on fairground rides, which I can't do now because of my brain injury. But what happened was I had a brain injury in 2003. I was walking up some steps and I've got an ICD defibrillator heart machine implanted, and it fired up. I came backwards down the stairs, and for several years I had multiple seizures a day, which meant I needed full-time care, couldn't go out on my own, and that meant I couldn't drive anymore. And in 2009, my seizures went from multiple seizures a day to having 4 or 5 a month, which is where I am now. And Brighton Hove Buses was my very first job back into following my brain injury. So I had to learn to travel again. I had to learn to travel on the bus again. I had to learn to travel on the train. So all of the barriers that people face every day were the barriers that I myself was facing. So I started working in customer services and found that the main feedback that we were getting was around accessibility, that people were saying, it's very difficult for me to access the bus, it's difficult for me to access the information. I don't have a mobile phone, or I don't want to download the information, or it's very difficult to get a seat on the bus if there isn't enough seats on there. It's very difficult if the flooring isn't the right colour. So in 2013, after engaging with multiple disability organisations, I became the first person in my role in the bus industry as the first accessibility lead in the bus industry. Now you have a me on the trains, that every train operator will have an accessibility lead, but it's not actually, it's not necessary to have somebody within buses. When I say necessary, it is necessary because it's a very valuable role, but it's not actually something that an operator has to do. And as I speak to you today, in 2026, there's still only 3 of us that do that I do in the UK, and 2 of us are based at Brighton Hove Buses and 1 in Scotland. So I'm just on the screen about the buses now, the different fleet of buses. And the reason why I've done that is because Ben quite rightly alluded to the fact of 2 wheelchair bays, dimension-friendly flooring, dimension-friendly seating, all of these different things. All of our buses now are co-designed and co-produced with disabled people and non-disabled people to ensure that they're more accessible. And I'm going to show you a video at the end about dementia and why it's so important about the dementia-friendly flooring and seating. But what we found is that all of our new buses, as I say, have been co-designed and co-produced. When we first started looking at accessibility, we were told that we didn't really, as a bus operator, we weren't buying enough buses to make major changes, Now I'm really pleased to say that all the manufacturers are looking at accessibility. So I'm just going to move forward now. And this is where it really starts. I mean, I know everyone in this room knows this already, but the bus connects communities. If you can't access the bus, people can't get to work, they can't get to their education, they can't get to their healthcare, they can't actually have the social interactions that may help to combat isolation and loneliness. So we need to remove the barriers for people to be able to travel, to be able to access the bus. And I'd just like to point out the picture in the middle is my daughter, two of my 3 grandchildren. And the young man who's the wheelchair user, that's Oliver, who's one of the people who co-designs and co-produces with us. And Shirley is a lady living with dementia in Brighton that's been helping us, one of the people living with dementia that's been helping with us with our designs around dementia. So I'll be very happy to share these slides if anyone wants them emailed to them, but there's 4 main laws around accessibility, and one of them, which is really important, is what they call the Access Denied report. So last year the government did a cross-parliamentary report and they did a lot of evidence taking, and they found that across the UK it was damning about transport in general, not just about buses but trains, taxis, that people were sharing. It was very difficult to access these services. So the government actually decided that they're going to do what they call the Travel Charter, and that's going to be coming out later this year, and they've been working with multiple disability groups, transport operators, manufacturers, to look at guidance and to look at regulations around making services more accessible. And really, with accessibility, if I go into the sort of background behind it, if we go back to the connecting communities, why is it important to be accessible? And there's 2 reasons that I look at. Number 1 is a necessity, because people can then access the bus. And the second one, actually, and I do this a lot, where Ben and I actually speak about the fact that operators should be doing it for the right reasons, so that passengers can access, more easily access. But actually it's better for business. Ben mentioned earlier that we're the largest carrier of passengers outside of London. We've increased year on year on year, apart from the year of COVID. And one of those reasons, amongst many, is accessibility. But being accessible, as I say, is the right thing to do, but accessible travel doesn't mean about making big changes. So a lot of people quite often share with me, oh, we can't make these changes, it's going to cost too much money. We can't make these changes, it's too difficult. And we've proved at Brighton Hove buses it's not. Most of the changes that we've made are very, very simple changes with not a lot of money invested into it, but the value that comes out of that for the people using the services is absolutely huge. And one of the things as well, although I'm the accessibility lead, it's not just my job to think about accessibility, it's everybody's job in the business. So I don't know, I'm sure many of you have heard about what they call the Purple Pound. The Purple Pound is the spending power of disabled people. And at the moment, it's estimated that there's 1 in 4 to 1 in 5 in people in the UK like myself who are disabled. And that's worth to the economy £274 billion a year, which is absolutely huge. And in fact, there is an estimated loss just to transport providers a month of £42 million a month by not being accessible. So 75% of disabled people, and these are all figures that the government used, have walked away from a UK business because it's not deemed as accessible. So that doesn't just work for transport, that works for hospitality, that works for every business across the UK. And £2 billion a year is lost by ignoring the needs of disabled people. But what we found at Brighton Hove Buses when I started my role from 2000, although I started in 2010, my role in accessibility really started in 2013, we found very, very quickly it's not just about disabled people, it's about non-disabled people as well. It's about all of us. Every single person in this room will have an accessibility requirement at some point in their lifetime. It may be a long-term one, but it may be a short-term one. Somebody may have an operation, and when they have that operation for the following 4 to 5 weeks, it might be more difficult for them to step up onto the bus if the driver's not low in the bus. Somebody has a migraine, if the screen isn't made accessible, then maybe they may not be able to see the screen. Travelling with luggage, if we want people to give up their car and use the bus, if there's no space on the bus for your weekly shopping, why would somebody use the bus? So all of these factors really matter. So the Purple Pound's worth £274 billion a year. What would the real value of the accessible pound be? You know, what value could really be put on that? And being accessible, if we go back to the fact that it's absolutely vital for people to access, it's also really good business sense as well, so it's really successful to do it. And Ben and I do a lot of speaking about that to different operators, because they should be doing it for the right reasons and making their services more accessible, but actually think about it commercially as well. And I'll just move past the video just for a moment, but we'll come back to it. So what things have we done across our services? Very basic things. We'll go back to, as you know, we're open from 6 AM to 10 PM with our customer services. Our travel hubs are not just community hubs in the sense of a travel shop, they're also what we call safe havens. All of our staff are trained. If somebody, whether they're a bus user or not, enters one of our travel hubs and they've got a difficulty or they become confused, that our staff are all trained to be able to offer assistance and to work through certain things to be able to assist. We do travel training, business partnerships and travel training around the fact about violence against women and girls. We also, for all Year 6 students, for all children, leaving primary school and going into secondary school, in Brighton we offer all the schools, all the classes. They get a free trip on the bus to be able to bring their class into the city centre. They enter our travel shop and they have like a 40-minute team building, confidence building on how to use the bus. And there's a lot of different booklets and everything the children get. After they've left us, they then get a free trip to the museum. And then if the school, because of course there's a lot of families that then don't have the money for the children to have school trips, the school can then use that bus travel for the rest of the day to use it for other school trips as well. We've got a taxi guarantee scheme. Any wheelchair user unable to board the bus for any reason gets a free accessible taxi. Again, we were told, oh gosh, that's going to be so expensive. That's actually only costing the company £60 to £100 a month, but that's really built confidence in wheelchair users to be using the bus and getting more people out and about. We have discounted fares for carers as well. We have a Helping Hand assistance card, which has actually now become the national card in Singapore. Australia are looking at extending that card, and that's come from us in Sussex. And I've got a couple of the cards. There's some free pens, magnets, and there's Helping Hand cards actually just by the corner of the stairs as well. And everything we do is co-designed and co-production. I'm going to be speaking about that. You'll hear that word again and again, because if you don't design it with your passengers, it's not going to work with your passengers. Everything is co-designed. Now, for many of you that may have been on the coaster bus, I've got a couple of pictures here about our coaster bus, but all of our buses outside of London, we were the first company that had 100% talking buses for next stop announcements. We've got the 2 wheelchair bays. It's got dementia-friendly flooring and seating. Now that means that with a very, very dark floor, my brain injury is quite similar to some of the ways around dementia as well. That with a very, very dark floor, it can look like a black hole for somebody living with dementia. So we've got lighter floors. All of our entire fleet have got lighter floors. Our moquette, our seating on our moquette is dementia-friendly as well. And in fact, we've just co-designed our new ones for the electric bus with Alzheimer's Society, with a group who call themselves Rusty Brains, a really incredible group that have just helped us work on that. But one of the really clever things we've done as well is that within our buses, on all of our coving, at the top, we've actually made everything, all the wording, so much clearer, so much bigger, so it's easier to read. And we've done the colour contrast, so it's easier to read as well, so it's more accessible. And we've done some very simple things as well. So on the upper seating, we've turned it into like a living area where people, if they want to travel together, can be more communal, like speaking with each other. We've added a table into one of our top buses. And in fact, actually, the picture on the top left, that's one of our groups that we work with the Sight Loss Council, that we do some training with as well. And as I say, everything's co-produced and co-designed. So on here, this is our actual new moquette that's going on our new electric buses that will be released in the next couple of months. It's very Brighton, so the group wanted to ensure that it had a Brighton touch. So you've got the dome, you've got the sea, and of course you've got but it's about the colour as well. So the moquette that's on this colour, I know you won't be able to see it very, very close up, but that as well was a very simple moquette before we actually changed it. The other things that we've done, again, I talked about the fact that it doesn't all cost a huge amount of money, it's about choices. The colour of the floor, the colour of the moquette, the type of moquette, it's all about choice. We've also changed the signage on our buses as well in the priority seating area. So we've changed it from the fact we still actually have the person with the walking stick, because that's vitally important. But of course, we looked at the fact that should we start adding symbols for pregnancy? Should we start adding symbols for different things like guide dogs? And so we thought, well, actually, and we worked with a lot of different groups, and we decided to say not all disability is visible. We've added our symbol of the helping hand, which is the thumb, and we've actually added in, there's a logo that says it's everyone's journey with the Department for Transport. We've actually heard from customers how much easier it's been, that not having to explain, and also our drivers have found it easier as well. The other thing we do, we're very, very simple, straightforward, very inexpensive. I don't know if when you've been into a shop and you get your card out, you don't know where to tap. Is it on the top of the machine? Is it on the side of the machine? Is it on the back of the machine? Because they're all different. So by adding some bright colours, please tap here, it means people know exactly where to tap and they don't have that embarrassment of searching for where to tap. And it's actually sped up our boarding times and alighting times again, so it goes back to it's the right thing to do, but it's the commercially viable option as well. And I'm just going to work past this as well to make sure that the videos are working. And I said a moment ago about the Travel Safe, Travel Smart we do for all the children, of the Year 6 children. This actually, I'm going to, as I say, I will share with Sandy the slides that she can share with anyone who wants them, but the picture on the left is our travel hub. And we've got some videos as well of the children that with the Travel Start, Smart Travel, Safe Travel, it's the children themselves that have actually made the video. So we're not telling them what is what, they're actually sharing that communication with each other. And co-design and co-production, it's very, very, very expensive to retrofit a bus. And what I mean by that is a bus is going to come into service, that's probably going to be going out on the roads for the next 15, sometimes up to 26, 27 years. That's a whole generation. So if you don't get your design right today, any bus that comes off the manufacturing line today is going to affect a whole generation of people. So bus operators don't tend to retrofit buses. Every sort of 5 or 6 years, a bus will get a refresh. It may have the seating changed, it may have the coving changed, the wording at the top of the bus, but in reality, you won't make any major changes to the interior, to the seating. And that's because the whole bus, it's very expensive, but also you have to reclassify the bus. We actually got, when our bendy buses in Brighton, we actually had to stop using them because of the high fuel consumption. It was very difficult to start getting parts. We bought some buses from London while we were waiting for the newer buses and the new electric buses to come in. And although normally you wouldn't retrofit, we actually decided to, because of our buses are more accessible. We thought our passengers aren't going to accept this really tight area. And it is quite a dark picture, I do apologise, but on the left-hand side, there's actually, you come in by the driver's cabin, there were 4 seats, 2 double seats on the left-hand side, and then there was a wheelchair bay on the right, and the wheelchair user would board through the middle doors on an electric ramp. Ben mentioned about us going back to manual ramps. Electric ramps can fail. Manual ramps, the driver will get out of the cab and it's much easier. It means and that can happen a lot with electric ramps. What we did, we actually took away the electric ramp from the middle doors, put it on the front doors so a wheelchair user could board at the front. Didn't lose any seats because the 2 double seats that were there, we put them into flip seats, and we actually opened up the whole area, so it's a lot more areas, so people were walkers, guide dogs, people with their shopping, luggage, without any loss of seats. And actually our passengers all fed back that was so much better. And a huge difference, and as well with the colours. So we changed it from darker colours into dementia-friendly colours as well. And there was a huge change with the fact of the seating. I won't go through all the names, but on the screen we've got multiple organisations that we work with. As I say, everything's co-designed and co-produced. So we work with multiple disability organisations, we work with multiple women's groups, schools, colleges, councils, and as I say, everything's together. Ben said about naming our buses. One of our buses in Brighton, our Pride bus, is actually named after George Montague, who very sadly passed away, very famously known as the oldest gay in the village. And his husband actually travels on our bus. He actually joins us for Pride every year on the bus. I'm just going to go back. I'm so sorry, I'm terrible with technology. Going completely the wrong way. Here we go. There we are. And of course we do lots of community days. We go to lots of different events. We'll take a bus along, we'll take a table. Ben does himself, our customer services do, I do, but it's always a really great way to bring people together. Really good example with the MS Centre up in Brighton and Hove. We did a day with them, and over 30 wheelchair users and scooter users came along and had the opportunity to privately, on a private bus, practice boarding and alighting. So people ask us how we've managed to change. How have we managed to invest in buses when some operators haven't been? Not because they don't want to, it's just sometimes they don't know how to. I've got to say there's a lot of great operators out there. There's some really good work happening out there. But there is a change in culture that has to happen to make things happen, even with my role, even funding my role. So what we did was, back in 2014, we actually had our first 3-tier philosophy culture change. And in fact, next week, we've got guide dogs coming to do a celebration. It's supposed to be a 10-year celebration, it's actually 12 years, where we did training, the very first training day, where we got all of our directors to do the same training as frontline colleagues. And that actually works now. So every single director, every single leading manager in our company does the same accessibility training as frontline staff. Why? Because they decide on the budgets. If they understand the reason why, then they're going to invest in it. Then we've got a second tier, which is a dedicated resource, which is myself, my colleague Sam. We go out, our job is to listen and learn to the lived experience of our passengers, bring that back operationally, see what changes we can make, look at what's possible, take that back and say, will this work? Does this work? And actually start co-producing and co-designing. And then the third one, which I think is actually the really clever part of it, is what we've done is we've embedded it in policy. So everybody will actually have to, if they're changing, if they're doing a new build, like Ben was saying with our depot being rebuilt at the moment for the electrification, or we're changing a policy, or there's a training module, we actually have an extra couple of questions on that policy change. Have you thought about disabled people? And what actions are you taking to make that more accessible? So, as I said earlier, it's not just then my job, it's everyone's job across the business. And if it works for disabled people, as I was saying earlier as well, it will work for non-disabled people, which means it works for everybody. And I was saying earlier about my other role, so here tonight I'm in the capacity of my role as Accessibility and Communities Manager. But last week I was up in London reporting to my reporting minister, which is Stephen Timms, the Department for Work and Pensions. But I come onto the Disability Unit, the Cabinet Office. And what it is, there's 20 of us across different businesses. So there is somebody for banking, somebody for insurance, somebody for aviation, for trains. I'm for bus and coach. And my role is a voluntary role, all of us, and our role is representative across the industries that we work in to be able to then feed back and to really have an impact and look at how the industry itself can be more accessible. And last year we actually had a visit from the local transport minister, Simon Lightwood, and he met with, rather than doing, funny enough I'm doing it now by PowerPoint, but rather than actually giving them a PowerPoint, we actually took him on a bus and he met with not all, but some of the disability groups that we co-design and co-produce with, so that he wasn't hearing from me, he's hearing from the people themselves that actually take value from the services. And he met with them and travelled with them, with the people that helped design our buses. And he then announced that other operators should really look towards the leading approach. And as I say, we are the only ones, sadly, that actually have the highest accreditation. And I'm going to go back because I'm going to show you a video of Shirley, who I introduced you to earlier. And now it says that all of our colleagues on this video are dementia friends after 6 years. The video is actually 2 years old, so we've all been dementia friends for 8 years. And you'll notice it's got face coverings on there. Is it going to work? Have I just broken it? Terrible with technology. I've just frozen it, haven't I, Ben? I've done it again, haven't I? I did this earlier.
There you go.
So go back, no, go forward. And again, and again. There you go, that's it, it's going to work. You must have the magic touch. That's it. Is it working? Maybe you've got to do the middle one. Right, I will put another video on there and we'll come back to that. And as I say, we'll share that, but I will show you another one with, here we go. This one's going to work, hopefully. It's not going to work, is it? Oh, there we are. The sound. Did we manage to get the... It's not going to work. Oh, it's such a shame. This video is people with sight loss themselves that are sharing that it's everything. It's their independence, it's their freedom, it's their happiness, enjoyment, that they get to do the things that they want to do, using the bus all the time. It's so important to be able to do that on their own independently and feel that they can and they can do it. It's about being part of the community and that they don't want to have to rely on somebody else to get out and about where they need to go. And it's about building confidence and self-esteem. And actually Alison, who's on the screen now, is saying that the driver is key. It's all about the driver, because the driver can make or break a journey. If you get on a bus and the driver's not being helpful, if the driver's not giving you what you need, then that could really upset the whole journey. So what we did was with sight loss councils and an organisation called Thomas Parkinson Trust, we actually designed some videos. All of our drivers are dementia friends, in fact all of our colleagues, all of us are dementia friends across the whole business. But also our drivers are all what we call level 1 My Guides with guide dogs and Thomas Parkinson Trust, which means that they're professionally trained to guide somebody properly. And it's really vitally important, because that course is an hour and a half just for that one course, which all of our colleagues do. But a lot of operators aren't doing that, so we worked with guide dogs and Thomas Parkinson Trust for sight loss councils to get that down to a short video that could go out, and it's been quashed into a 6-minute video that's been co-designed and co-produced. And the DVSA actually signed that off, and now all the big operators across the UK can actually access that free. And the same with the Dementia Friends, we've actually been able to bring that into training as well. So I'm really sorry the videos aren't working, and I do apologise. The next one that's on the screen that's not going to work either is actually the children's video, which stars the children themselves, and it's the children speaking to other children about how to get out and about on the bus and the things to do for safer travel, what to do if you've got your headphones on. Don't play your music on the bus and annoy everybody else. You know, make sure you keep your headphones in. You know, there's rules to keep you safe, how you can keep safe. If you do feel unsafe, then do let the driver know, or sit with the driver, hold on to the handrail, all different things that just to remind people of what to do about, and it's the children sharing with the children. And in fact, one of the children on here, that one of their parents is Game of Thrones. So we had a young star actually on there as well. So I know that's really the slides about the videos, but I will share the videos. I wonder, Ben, if you want to just do a couple of things on about what happens in the diversion works. And also you've got the app afterwards as well on the next slide.
Right, so when we do any, when there's of course any disruption of roadworks, we like to think we're very on the ball with it. We have everything's now communicated through our app, so the Brighton Hove Buses app. So you have a service update section, and our customer service team update it consistently till 10 PM 7 days a week, and making sure it's all updated. We have our, of course, going throughout. We can call our customer service team. We have live bus tracking, and as for stops, and there's a lot of different things we do. And we also, the most important part now is have personalised travel alerts. And so basically, you can actually sign up on the app. Of course, not everyone has the app, and then every time there's, hopefully never, but every time if there was an issue with the bus service, you can then get a notification coming through on your phone saying that this is what's happening, give you some information. You have to keep going searching for it. So if you're, if you are thinking about planning a journey, you can make it a little bit easier and and getting those notifications. Like you get any push notifications with anything, except you're accepting this one. It's not like another business trying to give you one without asking for it. But, you know, we've got some great feedback on it so far, and something that we're hoping towards. And more, I just actually heard this morning in Eastbourne Bus User Group that Stagecoach are now looking at personalised travel alerts as well. So it's something that's we've been doing for a couple of years, been working really well. So
I think that's it. Is there any questions or any feedback? We're going to share, as I say, Sandy, very, very happy for Sandy to share my email address out to anyone who wants to contact. Very, very happy to have direct contact with me. And I will also share with Sandy, I will send her the presentation which will have the videos as well, so that you can actually access those yourself. But with
I think you'll all agree that we've had a very interesting talk. I've learnt a huge amount, and I'm most grateful that you champion accessibility on behalf of all bus users. It's very clear that you speak for all your customers, not just those who are disabled and with particular needs. So can we give these folks...